Hi, my name is Margaret van Steenderen. I'm about to be on the Online Prosperity Show. I'm really looking forward to going on to this. I am passionate about learning and leadership, both in business and in life. I bridge the gap between knowledge and action, whether in academia or the workplace, by helping people learn smarter, stay organized, and develop the skills needed to succeed. Really looking forward to seeing you at the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a guest whose journey is as inspiring as it is transformative. Now, Margaret, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. And it's really great to be chatting to somebody who also started out in Africa. So.
Absolutely. I wish we could have actually started by speaking. Would you speak Zulu or any of the dialects? No, it never.
I can speak a little bit of Sotho. So, for example, I can ask what your name is. Lebitso laha ke man.
Yes.
Lebitso laha ke Margaret. Yep.
Absolutely. I love it when people have yet another language that they can ascribe to, or at least make an attempt, because the world has become a global village. And knowing that you started off in Africa, same as I did, now I'm in Australia and you're in America there, it's exploring the journeys that we have both taken, yours especially, but and what you have now achieved and how you are also helping others be, do, and have a happy existence. So thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Now, for those that are watching right now, thank you for tuning into the Online Prosperity Show. And I just want you to imagine something, having spent 2 decades navigating the intricate corridors of global operations and talent management, only to realize that your true passion is actually in empowering others to lead with purpose. And that's exactly the story of our guest, Margaret van Steenderen. You're going to have to tell me again how we say your last name.
Oh, good. It's Dutch as a matter of interest. So it's Van Steenderen.
Van Steenderen. All right. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to call you Margaret all the way, because Margaret, as you have heard, she not only comes with a difficult last name, but she's also not just a leadership coach and facilitator. She's actually a catalyst for sustainable values-driven development. And she's based in Skokie, Illinois, where she's founded SLGM LLC, a consultancy that's dedicated to preparing leaders for today's challenges and tomorrow's uncertainties. Now, she's got a rich background that includes serving as the Global Talent Director and Duke at the Duke Corporate Education. And Margaret has also honed the art of turning complex challenges into actionable strategies. So while we are going through her past experiences and also her current endeavors, I really want you to be on the lookout of the innovative methods that she actually employs to foster leadership excellence. And we're also going to be exploring her upcoming Ignite YourLearning program, which is designed to help individuals tap into their strengths and also navigate transitions with confidence. So whether you're a seasoned leader or you're just embarking on your own professional journey, I encourage you to stay tuned, because Margaret's insights will promise to resonate on a personal level and also offering both inspiration and practical guidance. Now, Margaret, I've already butchered your last name, and the last thing I want to be doing is butchering your well curated reputation. Maybe you can just take me out of my misery by now. Tell us a little bit about your journey, because it spans a lot of continents, a lot of decades in the making, what influenced you to get started on this journey?
I'm gonna jump a little bit and then we can backtrack a little bit if that's okay. So the name of the company is Sustainable Leadership Growth Mindset. And basically, it encapsulates why mindsets are so important and what makes up a great leadership mindset, which is sustainability, leadership of self, and growth. And the reason mindsets are so important is they can actually make or break you. So, for example, imagine you're in your late 40s, you're about to move continents, you're going to move from South Africa through to America, you're moving hemispheres, completely unknown. And how is that going to affect you? How are you going to go about it? The most important thing, I think, for us when we started that is I said to Pierre, my husband, before we left, no matter what happens, we're going to make it work. So we both absolutely went into moving to America with a very positive mindset and very much with a mindset that said, no matter what happens, we're going to interpret it for the best and we're going to use it to the best of our ability. So that was the mindset we had when we actually moved here. And that's what really, I think, also inspired me when I was looking for a company name, was how important mindsets are to us as we go through our journeys of leadership and learning.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for opening up that, Pandora's box of how it all sort of began. But Margaret, why were you leaving South Africa at that time?
Predominantly, my husband was offered a really good job in Chicago. That's the main reason we left. Part of the reason that I said to him, we got to take it. Our house had been burgled for the 8th time, which is very normal. But this time they hurt my dogs. Now, my dogs came with me. They're okay. They are okay. But they hurt them. And I mean, after 8 burglaries, anything that's important to you has been stolen. So, the actual burglary you don't really care about. It's the beings in your house. So us as human beings, of course, and in my case, the animals. So we were lucky in that they came while we were at work. But what I also find really amusing is when people that are so used to high crime talk about crime, we refer to ourselves as lucky in that we weren't home, so we weren't physically attacked like a lot of our friends were. The dogs were harmed, but luckily they weren't killed. They came with us. So it's really interesting how we interpret the world according to what we're used to.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, absolutely. Like you say, it is a mindset, so to speak. Now, the 8th time, obviously somebody would think twice about living in a place like that, but this is a place that you grew up in. What was it like growing up in these areas?
So I actually grew up all over the country. Unbeknownst to me at the time, I was growing up in apartheid South Africa. So I very much lived in a very privileged white bubble, realistically. We had suburbs, schools, full resources for white people, with the majority of the population having no rights, not being able to vote, very, very little privilege. I mean, Black people that did well over the time that I grew up show an exemplary character, a strength of character that I really, really admire. They really overcame a lot. A little bit how I look at you, moving from Zimbabwe to Australia and sort of, moving from working in a restaurant to founding this fantastic business.
Absolutely.
A lot of respect for that.
Thank you.
So I was originally born in the Cape. My mom, a little bit of a trigger warning. I'm going to chat a little bit about my mom, but trigger warning around the story for people. Just if you're sensitive to themes of undeading or self, just be aware. Turn off now. Okay. So I was 5, nearly 6, when my mom committed suicide. She was 29. She was very young. And we were living in Pietermaritzburg at the time, which is in a different province. And she was with her parents, and she never came home. And of course, as children, they didn't explain to us what happened. We just knew our mom was gone and that she was never coming back. And we moved around a lot. So I started school when my mom was alive in grade 1, and in January, and the next month she was dead. So I then moved schools a lot of time as my dad moved around, also trying to find his feet again without his wife. And when we found out, we were 9 or 10, and our grandparents told us what happened, and that she had committed suicide. She crushed up 200 codeine tablets and drank them with milk. We got a lot of detail. And in my child's mind, the way to interpret that is I was convinced she'd been kidnapped by an evil professor and that he was holding her, and that's the only reason she wasn't with us. And I think that led me to love fantasy and science fiction and writing. I've written a book called Ella's Way Home about a 10-year-old who's convinced her mother was kidnapped by a professor, a little bit autobiographical, and how she eventually figures out what happened and the journey she goes on. And for me, I think my journey was being very interested in understanding people, understanding depression, understanding why this happens to people. And that led me to studying psychology. I went to 7 different schools. I lived all over South Africa. My dad did settle down and get remarried. And then I went on to live with my grandparents. So I went to a lot of different schools, which left me a little bit of a rolling stone. So I find it easy to meet people and make friends, a little bit more difficult to stay in long-term contact with them, from going to the 7 different schools. But it taught me a huge amount, and I really think it put me on the pathway of psychology, understanding people, and wanting to understand people.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for letting us in on that intimate detail. But as the child that was obviously battling with this tragic event, that was a coping mechanism that you then got, which obviously you do say you thought the professor would have taken your mom. Okay. That alone. Now, is it something that only a Margaret would experience, or is this available to a lot of people that go through things like this?
So children and adults, we all come up with our own different coping mechanisms. And very often, I think we do come up with stories for ourselves that help us cope with the circumstances or give us the time that we need for our brains to maybe develop a little bit more so that we can now actually figure out and understand the story for ourselves. Also, I mean, in those days, so this was the 70s, so I mean, nowadays if that happened, the kids would go straight off to play therapy, I'm guessing, or some type of therapy. There'd be all sorts of people around to help them process it if they have access to those kind of resources. In the 70s, you didn't tell children a lot about these things, which is why we only had details when we were a bit older. And B, you were expected to get on with life. It happened, you've moved house, now get on with it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's safe to say that you actually started leading yourself at a very younger age and having to obviously look after your own self, because at that time, other kids would have had the protection of, both families or parents and things of that nature.
Yeah. Myself and my brother, Derek. What's also interesting is we also reacted in very different ways. So I reacted by diving into books. That was my thing. Loved reading. I think that's also where the whole professor thing and, the crazy story came from. I must have come across it in a book somewhere. And Derek turned into a very outdoor child. And he just wanted to be outside, roaming free, out in the wild, and so on, which is, what I find interesting, though, is even though we've got such sort of different attitudes to life, we get on incredibly well. We actually complement each other as brother and sister.
Absolutely. And, that's a good turn of events that would have happened. Now, would you say that this story that you told yourself about a professor having kidnapped, mom is something that then just got you to keep wanting to study, just because hopefully you were hoping you would meet up with mom in some sort of college corridor subconsciously?
So that was actually a bit of a little bit of a convoluted journey, in that when I was 19, I was actually assessed for vocations, what I want to do. And the person that assessed me actually said to me, don't go to university. You don't have the capacity or the patience for it. So I took that to heart and jumped into work. But I always wanted to study psychology. And in hindsight, I wanted to, now I realize I wanted to understand my mom, of course, and myself and my family. But I really wanted to understand my mom and what happened and why she did it, and why people choose to go that path. And sorry, a quick aside, a lot of people say it's a really selfish thing to do. You know what? It might be to the survivors, but to the person at the time, genuinely in their own mind, they think they're doing the right thing, because that is how their mind is working at the time. It's sorry, that's a bit of an aside. So
thank you. It's okay.
I started working, didn't go to university, kept really wanting to study psychology. So finally, when I was 28, I went to university part-time while I was working, and I finally got to start studying. Yep.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm glad, because you mentioned that your brother, Derek, all right, and, was a considerable part of your life now, that it was not just the two-part. He played crucial roles with, during your journey. Can you share how his support has actually influenced your path? So as children, we were actually separated quite young. So he sort of stayed around, he stayed around the Johannesburg area, and I actually moved to the Benoni area with my maternal grandparents. And my grandmother was a really kind, wonderful woman who gave me unconditional love, and I feel really made a huge difference for me. Whereas Derek was a lot more independent. He was very much wanted to be his own person. Although he's really intelligent, he battled academically. He was in the wrong environment, which is also where some of my interest in learning comes. And we've spent most of our lives in different provinces now. So he was in the Cape for a long time. I was in Gauteng. He's now in the UK. I'm in the USA. But I think our shared history, especially now that we're older, has really helped us understand each other, and to understand each other's, let's call them little quirks, and to now work well together. He was fantastic helping me set up SLGM. He gave me a lot of advice. He's been an entrepreneur for many, many years. So we work together very well now, and our differences actually complement each other now. So you've got the bookish bookworm, which is me, who comes with academia and the learning and this is how you do it. And you've got the very practical, outdoorsy, survivalist bush person, which is Derek, happiest in the bush, as opposed to, but we bring that together, which is also why for us sustainability is such a big part of the business. So, yeah. Absolutely. You see, what I really like about your story, Margaret, is lived experience. So many coaches and consultants just maybe go to a conference or, over a weekend, walk through some burning coals, and then, on their way back, buy a computer and they call themselves a coach. But, you actually have lived experience with all of this. How does this past now influence what it is that you're doing and how you're helping other people, first of all, maybe lead themselves and really work on sustainable, value-driven development?
Yeah, really. So I think, so a big part of what I've sort of really started recently to focus on is learning how people learn and helping people learn. And a big part of that is for leaders, as a leader, it is so important to have the ability to learn and to be able to actually use the information, to take it in and keep it. Think about the many courses you've been on. You've probably been on some brilliant 3-day courses, but now tell me what you remember from them. So, and the reason I'm saying that is we, for whatever reason, spend a lot of money on courses and seminars and workshops. And yes, a lot of them are great. A lot of them teach us things. A lot of us have, you know very well, a teacher can have a huge impact on your life. But that's also the exception to the rule. So how do we actually help leaders themselves learn how to learn and to actually develop and adapt from that? And then how do we actually help the rest of the organization learn how to learn?
Absolutely. I mean, with the way things are changing these days, even the people we are leading have completely changed. I think I was telling you earlier on that the people that went into the pandemic are not the people that came back, because that's a whole different person and different values that they sort of ignited. Now, you've got your new Ignite Your Learning program that is set to launch soon. Can you walk us through what that does, what that entails, and who is it meant for?
So how it came about is I was really assessing, and of course, as a coach, I always encourage people to assess themselves and where they're going and what their journeys are and where they've come from. And I was really assessing my work journey. And I realized that what I was the most proud of was very much around learning. So if I can give you some examples, if I look at my previous work life, for example, when I worked for Phumelela, which is a Zulu word, but they do horse racing in South Africa, we implemented an HIV/AIDS program there. And obviously with the huge backing of the CEO. But I was really proud of the work we did there and how we actually managed to touch people's lives, because we did this at the time. You couldn't just go and get ARVs in South Africa. You know, we had a whole lot of people saying that HIV doesn't cause AIDS, etc. I don't know if you remember that time.
Yeah.
So we actually managed to help a lot of people get onto ARVs and get more educated. And then another program I was really proud of was we had a lot of people that started working for us before they started finished school. And, now 20 years later, people won't even talk to you if you don't have a matric, which is the high school equivalent for South Africa. Yeah. And we actually put together, I championed a matric program for a small group of people. And it really had such a great impact on them. And one of the ladies also she actually went on to university. So when what I am most proud of is affecting people's learning journeys, and also sort of leading or influencing people to learn more. That's what I'm really proud of. And that's what led to Ignite Your Learning. So I started off with Ignite Your Leadership, Ignite Your Inspiration, and I've now gone more into Ignite Your Learning, which is very much around helping people get the skills that they need to be able to learn. So if you've always dreamt of going to university, we're going to look at a few core things with you. Motivation. Why do you want to do it? And the reason that's so important is it gets really tough stuff. I mean, I did it. I was 28. I was married. You got a whole working. So it gets tough. So you need that extra motivation to keep going. But then on top of that, you need skills. You actually need to know how to study. How do I do research? If I'm given an assignment, how do I interpret the question? Yeah. What cool resources are there available for us to use that also make our lives easier for studying? And I'm talking about things like Google Scholar, not using ChatGPT to write your assignments. Please never do that. Yeah. And also, very importantly, we look at the environment. So you actually need three aspects, I feel, to be successful. And this is for leadership, this is for learning, this is for anything. So I don't know if you've heard of a fire triangle.
Absolutely, yes, the fire triangle.
Okay, this is the fire triangle. So the fire triangle was studied for, it's been around for many years, and it's studied by people for firefighting. So what are the three things I need to get a fire going? I need the initial heat or the spark. I need the fuel to keep feeding it, and I need oxygen or air, which is what fire uses to burn. So if I want to control a fire, I need to get rid of at least one of those, which is why they've used it so much for firefighting. But we can also use it. I love this as a metaphor for leadership and for learning and so on, because we can often distill what we need into three things. So if we look at it, we actually need heat, which can be interpreted as motivation. What is that spark? What's getting you going? What makes you want to be a great learner or a great leader and get into what you're learning about? The second part that you need is your fuel or your resources. So as a leader, yes, it's your learning, it's your training, but it's also what other resources are available to you. Who are your mentors? Who are your coaches? You know, what books do you have? What budgets do you have available? That's your resources. When it comes to learning, it's your study techniques. It's having access to those kind of things. Then the third part is your air, or in this case, it's your environment. And so environment is not only the actual physical environment you're in, it's also your own internal environment. Are you ready to take a big leap? If you're a leader and you're starting a new project, do you have what you need in your environment to support you? Do you have all the resources that you need? Are you mentally ready for it? Also, when it comes to environment, with studying, it's making sure that you've got a quiet corner set up for yourself, that you've got space that you can go to when you need time away to be able to study, that you've got people that are supporting you, and that you know how to support yourself. So I love the fire triangle. My brother Derek actually introduced me to it. He, just as a matter of interest, can light fires, I think 15 or 20 different ways. Drop him off somewhere, he'll light a fire for you. But he taught me about this triangle, and I just found it such a wonderful metaphor for looking at leadership development and then now learning development.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing this with us, because for so many people, we try and navigate through life, or we try and navigate through certain things, not knowing that there's rules to this. If you've got the right ingredients and the right tools or setups, things would work out perfectly. So who do you normally take through this triangle of fire?
So I actually do a fair amount of talks, and I actually nearly always bring the fire triangle with me. And the reason I do that is for me, it's just such a fantastic metaphor to really outline to people that it's not just one thing that you need to make things work. It's a combination of things. So very similar to a fire, you can have a fire that's really smoky and icky, but it's a fire, it's working. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be because, the resources, the wood might be damp. So same as us as human beings, we can work with what we've got and we can function. But are we actually functioning optimally? And what do we need to tweak? And how do we identify where we need support? So, yeah.
The one thing that I like about this is a fire is never neat. A fire is never sort of like, the logs will never be the right size, or no matter how they're cut or whatever it is. So that actually allows somebody to embrace imperfection. So many of us are really caught up with trying to get the right thing. If you've been around a fire, all that ash is dirty, is just
Yep.
But reflecting on your journey, how has sort of embracing these concepts and also imperfection and also focusing on progress over perfection really impacted the way that you deal with everything that comes your way?
I actually love that you said progress over perfection, because that's actually really important to me. And I've worked with some wonderful leaders that will trip themselves up by being perfectionists. And it really is actually getting people to realize that it's actually progress, and taking that next step forward is more important than having the perfectly color-coded spreadsheet to guide you. And believe me, I've been down that rabbit hole. I can produce a perfectly color-coded spreadsheet if you want me to. But the point is a really important part of it is being practical over perfection. Keep moving forward. Keep taking that step. Yeah.
Absolutely. But Margaret, if somebody watches this video right now and they'll look at how color coordinated we are and everything else, and how our stories are in sync, they would think, oh, so maybe this is what I need to do to create a podcast. So this is what I need to do to show up to a podcast. Everything has to be perfect, because one thing that I know is a lot of leaders don't execute because they want everything to be perfect. They want the triangle to be aligned, but it's never going to be perfect at any given time. What sort of strategies do you then recommend to help people shift towards, like you did mention, a mindset of progress and adaptability?
So that's a little bit. The reason I'm hesitating is when I'm coaching, I tend to work one-on-one. So it's very dependent on who the person is, where they are, and what resources they have available to them.
Right.
If I was teaching a group of people, I think what's really, really important at the end of the day is, what is your end goal? What is your mission? What are you trying to achieve? And the reason that's also so, including learning, life, sort of growth, finding your way to a new country, is what do you want to achieve at the end of the day? Because if you're not sure, what are you working towards? And I think that's also where perfectionism can come and trip you up, because you're not 100% sure where you're going. So you actually kind of try and build the perfectly laid brick pathway to follow, rather than actually concentrating on the final destination. So my first question would be, is what you're trying to achieve? And it could be something like, implementing a new system at work, as an example, as a leader. So you've got the resources, you've got the budget, you've got your people, they're ready for you. What are you actually trying to achieve with that system? Why is it so important to you as a business to implement it? And if you look at the goals and what you want to achieve, I think that can also really help keep pushing you towards progress. Because if that's what you want to achieve, these are the changes you can potentially see in 6 months' time. How do we get there? Is the system going to be perfect? Absolutely not. No system ever is. But does it achieve the basics of what you wanted to achieve, and will it make your lives better? In which case, as a leader, you're going to keep pushing towards implementing it.
I like
One example
that.
I can think of. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I was also brought up to know that no two fingers on the same hand are of the same height. So, so at any given moment, people present very different, use cases and issues, and also, things that they are focusing on and the results that they are sort of looking towards. So if somebody's looking to work with you and maybe find out how they can get into that triangle of fire and learn a little bit more about it, what would be the best way that people can reach out to you, Margaret?
So they can email me at Margaret at SLG2M.com. And the reason it's SLG2M, by the way, is SLGM was taken when we were registering sites. So see, progress over perfection. So what's your next best option? And the reason I went for SLG2M, I was thinking of growth squared. With the right mindset and with the sustainable and a leadership mindset, you can significantly increase your growth and the rate at which you're growing it and what you're learning. Okay, so Margaret at slg2m.com. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that people can actually get started on that journey over there. Now, Margaret, when we started, you introduced us to you know, 6-year-old, who obviously had to deal with life in the way that you dealt with life. And yeah, like you said, you had to just deal with it and things of that nature. But if you would look back at that little girl and maybe she would walk up to you right now, what sort of words would you want her to know about what she's about to embark on?
So what I really wish, okay, so I will say obviously what I wish somebody had said to me,
Yes,
which
yeah.
was, your mother wasn't well. And sometimes when you're not well, you can see it, like you got chicken pox and you can see the spots. And sometimes when you're not well, you can't see it. And that's sometimes when people's minds aren't well. And your mom wasn't well in that way. And your mom loved you very much. And she loved your family very much. But unfortunately, because she wasn't well, she couldn't see how to keep living her life. And she actually thought that the best thing for her family was not to be with them anymore. And that was actually her way of telling you that she loves you. And that I now know it was the wrong way for her to tell you. And unfortunately, it's something she can never, ever take back. But just be aware that you are loved. She did love you. And you need to go on and make a difference in the world.
And making a difference, you are. Thank you so much for that. And it's, in hindsight, that's when you start noticing that, because of the journey that you've taken, your life story and your experience have so much value for a lot of people that are going to be a part of it. So yeah, I would only just think that the only way is just to keep going the way you've been going, and especially whether it's not perfect, whether it's whatever it is, we're always just progressing, and you've become, an embodiment of that. But we might come across, our listeners that might not have had a really, some people have issues in their life. Maybe they break a nail or they lose an eyelash, or things like that would just really take them off kilter. And maybe they're just considering a few changes in their life, or just starting their journey on being an entrepreneur. What sort of advice or key lessons from your own journey would you like to impart to them?
Know what you want to do. So when we start our entrepreneurial journeys, and I don't know if you went through this when you started yours, but know what you actually want to achieve. You're going to have 20 big ideas. Which one or two are the most important? So I don't know if you found the same, if you don't mind me asking. And did you find that you needed to narrow down?
Absolutely, because if you don't know where you're headed, anywhere could be the destination, and you would have wasted time, money, and effort. So if you really know what you want and reverse engineer it, it's just like if I would have told you, let's have a chat. I don't give you a date. I don't give you a Zoom link. I don't give you a time, and I don't give you an opportunity to give me any information to start off with. None of this would have happened, and we wouldn't have had a good episode. So many people just start with that actual foundation, and knowing exactly where they want to go, and then just allowing life to happen in between as it corrects itself. So absolutely, I like that. Yeah. Because so many people also don't realize, when you're going somewhere, Margaret, the first thing that you do in your car is type in the address of where you're going in the GPS, not the address of where you are. And then eventually the GPS will self-navigate to the right position of where you actually are. And sometimes it doesn't even know. It asks you, are you around this area? So that at least it gives you some sort of direction, so it makes it easy.
I love it.
Absolutely. Now that obviously you've brought us into your world there, Margaret, and obviously there's going to be a lot of sustainable growth and leadership lessons. What's next? What can we expect moving forward?
So my big push at the moment is Ignite Your Learning. So I've got a journal that's going to be coming out. So I do currently have a journal on Amazon. It's called Ignite Your Inspiration. Please go and have a look.
Okay.
It was very much written for people to be able to analyze their own goals and where they want to go and how they're going to get there. And it was very much done without so for example, I didn't put the days of the week and that kind of thing on the journal. And the reason I didn't do that is, especially your perfectionists are going to go, oh, it's Wednesday. I can't start the journal now. I need to wait until Monday. Oh, I missed Tuesday. I now, we actually give ourselves excuses to it. Anyway, so I took that excuse away. It's day one, go for the next day, etc. And I'm going to be putting out Ignite Your Learning very soon. I'm already working with potential students and with students, so I'm available to do that right now. I love, especially working with PhD students. I'm an accountability partner for them. I assist them with structure, accountability, academic tips and tricks. I can also help them with editing, research, and so on. I'm also a great person to bounce your research questions around with, because you very often just need somebody, a partner, just to chat through these things with. So I'm going to be really focusing on that side of my business for the next year and looking for more people to really take on optimal learning journeys.
Absolutely. And count me in on the first people that are going to grab your journal, because I like how not strict it is, because sometimes when you've gone past 3 or 4 days and you haven't done anything, you'll be like, you know what? I think this is already too late, and then obviously forget the journaling part. So you can just start wherever you are with what you have and just move on from that. So thank you so much for making it easy and taking away the excuse of not being able to comply with the dates right there. So thank you so much. But I really appreciate the time and the expertise that you've shared with us on the call today. I mean, your profound journey and everything else that you've done in between.
Thank you. Sorry, Prosper, just one more thing I'd be dying to say. I love your metaphor with the GPS, and I'm going to use that. I hope you know. I absolutely love that. But what I also love about it is when you're driving, you don't spend the whole journey looking in your rearview mirror. So why do we do that to ourselves by just constantly looking at the past and not actually looking at where we are and what's just down the road that we're trying to reach?
Oh, that is so beautiful. Is that why the rearview mirror is smaller than the bigger mirror?
There we go.
You can see forward to where you're going and just a little.
Yeah, you should just glance occasionally, make sure something's not coming from the past to cause issues. But it's looking ahead. I really love that metaphor. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you shared profound insights with us, and obviously your life story and your experience have so much value for those that are listening, and also your dedication to fostering sustainable leadership, because we are here for the long haul. I mean, even though life is short, but it has to be sustainable in the way that we're doing this. And that's the reason why a lot of people are burning out and also then ending up suffering from imposter syndrome, because they haven't put in that sustainability along the way. And I think this unique approach really, really stands out. So hopefully we'll be able to reach as many people as possible that will be able to adopt this into their day-to-day life. And for those that are listening right now, thank you so much for tuning into the Online Prosperity Show. And I know you're eager to learn a lot more from Margaret. So I'm going to be putting all the links to SLGM LLC, the official website, in the show notes. And also, I will also give you the links to the journal so that you can actually go on and make a purchase, because it is available on Amazon, which actually is offering practical strategies for leadership excellence. And before we wrap up, I just encourage you to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more insightful conversations like this, because in our next episode, we're going to be exploring ideas to enhance your happiness and well-being. And if today's discussion has resonated with you, please share this podcast with somebody who might benefit from it, because I want you to remember that the journey to prosperity is best traveled together. Until next time, bye for now.